Hi, I'm Dr. Leonard Horowitz.
And I'm Sherry Kane.
This is about Christopher Dorner, whistleblower and trained assassin turned murderer. There is clearly a battle between light and darkness, as forces match up in the battle of good and evil, featuring Christopher Dorner, a whistleblower and trained military assassin turned murderer, in a Hollywood script-like saga unfolding in the LAPD and the mainstream media.
Unfolding theologically and politically is an expression of racism and even genocide, challenging community harmony, civil rights, and human freedoms.
This is a case study in law, man's law and will, versus divine law and even perhaps divine destiny.
What's in a name or a personal identity? For Christopher Dorner, his good name and good faith investment in the system was stolen from him, and he is now retaliating.
Although very few of us would condone his murdering innocent people, Christopher Dorner is expressing what most Americans already feel in their hearts: a deep sense of frustration and anger over the gross dysfunction and degeneration of the American judicial and law enforcement systems.
Dorner's deadly and damaging actions speak to most Americans more than the models presented by Hollywood, such as with the recent film Parker, that depicts a righteous yet murderous man damaged by the world of white-collar crime.
This is virtually the same message: a serial killer who risks his life to administer justice in an unjust system of criminals operating above the law. Curious that this Hollywood theme is promoted just before Dorner's murderous political actions.
Urgent social, political, and judicial determinations are being tested with this emerging story, comparing state-sponsored crime and terrorism to an avenging, whistleblowing vigilante. Both parties, the hunter and the hunted, engage crime and terrorism. Both cause collateral damage, loss of life and property, and both terminate lives, destroy families, and affect innocent people.
Both are extreme political actions that test the law of righteousness, Old Testament versus the New Testament, the wrathful God of King David's age versus the love of Jesus' God in Matthew through Revelation.
Arguments raised include neo-Nazism encouraged at taxpayer expense by public servants. References to Hitler's youth are a growing threat in the United States, as demonstrated by tabloid darling Dr. Truott and company, advocating for KKK, anti-Zionist, white supremacy theology, and fomenting terrorizing murderous activity.
These are all hate crimes, felonies of ignorant and arrogant intolerance. Dorner's saga is a test between people's acceptance of collateral damage caused by acts of the police state or military state, to collateral damage produced by terrorist attacks of political activists. These are otherwise called extremists. In this case, a policeman, trained as an assassin by military officials operating covertly in the intelligence communities of the United States Navy and the CIA.
Dorner's manifesto messages military personnel that are dutifully serving the unrighteous crime syndicate we call law enforcement, increasingly empowered by a corporate-controlled police state.
Dorner's message compels us to question the saying, "Good guys always finish last," since the good guys are most susceptible to losing out to a corrupt system of injustice that compromises its finest officers and, when necessary, sacrifices the best, most ethical and loyal men and women for financial and political gains.
Good women and men are backstabbed at the drop of a hat by white-collar corruption and organized crime, a protection racket that encourages social and cultural divisions, hate crimes, violence, and peer pressure to shut up or be gone.
Dorner's political targets, it must not be overlooked, include the private equity investors on Wall Street engaged in genocide, those who profit from terror and lost lives, such as military and security industry corporations and organizations, those that wield the corporate-controlled media and spin this saga to evade the most meaningful and compelling lessons in this tragedy, the hidden opportunity that Dorner is willing to die for. Read the book of 528, because it's all about law enforcement, divine law enforcement versus man's law enforcement. That is, from the scientific, mathematical, and musical perspective, there is an administration of divine law that's not reflected in man's law. The main controversy between good versus evil, right versus wrong, God's laws versus madmen's actions, and people who manipulate systems to express greed, arrogance, and gain power most corruptly, as these also relate to nature. Divine justice versus injustice, generating karma and more killing.
If and when Dorner is caught and killed, will his identity secure infamy or twisted heroism? Will the end justify the means for Dorner versus the LAPD and the American military, security, and criminal justice system? It is unlikely Dorner will be heralded as a hero, nor will Los Angeles police officials proudly claim victory. This is a symptom of a psychopathic system that trains killers, steals their souls, then destroys them if they don't damage and kill innocent people.
I'm Dr. Leonard Horowitz for Revolution Television.
And I'm Sherry Kane. Thanks for joining us.